Welcome back to the WHHI-TV Daily News. Well, we're going to take a look back at the financial year that was 2024, and to help us do that is Michael Reinking. He is a certified financial advisor with the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you for being here today to help us take a look back and talk to us a little bit about that. Taking a look back, what did we see in 2024?
Yeah, so first and foremost, thanks for having me. Look, when I look back at 2024, I think the thing that stands out the most is just how strong U.S. equity markets have been throughout the year. We've had double-digit returns across most major U.S. indices. When you look at the S&P 500, that index, that your audience is investing in their 401ks, that index is up over 20% for back-to-back years for the first time since the mid-1990s, right? And there's some common kind of parallels between that time period and the current environment. And one of the common threads is really that technological revolution that we've seen, right? And when you look at what has driven some of that strength, the first thing really is that AI revolution. We've continued to see kind of business investment in that technology infrastructure, the build out of data centers, right? That's something that you guys are seeing down there in your region, kind of quite a bit. And that is adding jobs to the economy, and it's helping kind of the U.S. economy remain very resilient despite the fact that we're coming out of a 2-year time period where the Federal Reserve was hiking interest rates by the most aggressive pace going back to the 1980s, right? And as we look forward, we've now seen the Fed begin to pivot. They started cutting rates in September. We have 75 basis points of rate cuts under our belts at this point, with another 25 basis points expected before the end of this year, right? And that's happening in a strong economic environment, right? And it will help to preserve that that environment as we move forward. And it's also going to help Main Street, right, as you start to see interest rates on kind of mortgages, auto loans, credit card loans, all starting to move higher. And then the last thing that I think is driven some of the strength here is the election, right? And as we've removed that overhang coming out of the election in November, we're starting to see some optimism build that we could potentially see some lower taxes, a pro-business or pro-growth kind of policies coming out of Washington, right? And that's that's setting us up for potentially a good year in 2025.
Well, okay, so let's talk about 2025. So as you mentioned, technology, AI, all those things were kind of driving sectors for 2024. What are you seeing as sectors to watch for the new year?
Yeah, so I think that AI trade has been very much about the beneficiaries in the last year, and that's really been the picks and shovels of that business. So think about companies that are making semiconductors or servers, GPUs, or building out the data centers. But we're seeing that evolve, and I think it's going to be a big part of the conversation next year as well. We're starting to see software companies using the technology to innovate, and investors are paying very close attention to how management teams are talking about their AI strategy and how they're going to use it to increase productivity and profitability as they move forward. Another industry that I think is very important to pay attention to are the financials, right? And with the expectations of a better regulatory environment and a pro-growth background, right, we're hoping to see a pickup in some capital markets activity heading into the new year. We're starting to see some chatter around M&A. But for your audience, most excitingly, we're hoping to see the IPO window begin to reopen up. From our seat here at the New York Stock Exchange, right, that gives us the opportunity to work with these innovators, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to go out and raise that capital, to go out and change the world, right? And it provides a whole new investment opportunity for the public.
Yeah, and so we've got about a minute left, all very fascinating stuff so far, but let's just talk a little bit about, you mentioned that there could be more rate cuts coming up from the Fed. What do you see as happening with that for the end of the year and then moving into 2025 as well?
Yes, so we have a Fed rate decision later this afternoon. They are widely expected to cut by 25 basis points, but there is this expectation that the language coming from the committee and the chairman is going to shift in a more hawkish way, suggesting that the pace of rate cuts as we move into next year is going to slow, right? As we've started to see some of the inflationary data more recently suggested that disinflationary process may have stalled out, right? There's also quite a bit of uncertainty in terms of what Washington policy is going to do to the Fed's dual mandate of inflation and employment as we move forward. So, they are going to suggest that they're going to move a little more cautiously next year, and they're going to remain very data dependent.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your expertise on what we saw in 2024 and what we might be able to expect in 25. We appreciate it.
All right, well, thanks for having me, and have a happy and healthy new year.
You as well. Thanks to everyone on the show today for their insights and contributions. As always, our production team is behind the scenes to make all of this possible. And of course, we are honored that you have chosen to share a part of your day with us. I'm Betsy McDaniel, and we'll see you for the next WHHI-TV Daily News.